Okay. Oh my God, my cursor is stuck. Is it? I think we're live. I get such anxiety from these machines, but I now know that I can see this little thing that says up there YouTube. So that means the Zoom is on the YouTube. I am Jane Frizzell. This is Steinbrecht Sessions, and this is number 22 of Steinbrecht Sessions, which is Tuesdays at 3 o'clock. And we have gone through line upon line, precept upon precept, what I call the DNA of riding, this section of Steinbrecht's masterwork, The Gymnasium of the Horse, where he explains the horseman's two golden rules: ride your horse forward and set it straight. All horsemen from history know these two golden rules and swear by these two golden rules: ride your horse forward and set it straight. Steinbrecht did not invent this idea. That's why he put the phrase ride your horse forward and set it straight in italics and in quotes on page 71. But what he did do is give us one of the most focused, cogent discussions on the two golden rules of the material of the instructions that we have from the old dead men. The other dead men talked about forward and straight like you should already know it. Like, doesn't everybody know that? Kind of the way they discussed it. But he goes into a very useful discussion on pages 71 through 78 specifically, and that is the topic of these Steinbrecht sessions. We've been going line upon line, precept upon precept, and we are getting toward the end of the chapter now on page 77, or on the bottom half of page 77, riding forward uphill towards page 78. But what this is this is everything that he's been talking about. It's all coming to bear, right? It's all happening now. And that's why riding, I think, gets so misunderstood, because it's a system. And so you have to have an overview and a sense of all that is occurring, even though we have to discuss and examine separate elements of it. It's a system, and it's very dynamic. So we've got to have the sort of the dynamic gallop stride we're seeing, but then what's happening here, what's happening here, what's happening here, what's happening here, and be able to really know it that way before we can impart it to the horses. We're talking about balancing the horse in a body carriage that feels artificial to them. It's not accustomed to that. And so the rider can only obtain results in a timely manner without just wasting the horse. Quickly and reliably, we have to be able to get these ideas across to the horse. And we can only do that if the rider's body is well trained, meaning that it's completely balanced, completely loose. And the trained rider's loose, aligned, educated body will enable him to temporarily compensate for any lack of balance in the horse. A trained rider can make very rapid, temporary, skilled adjustments and distribute, but skilled adjustments to any by the skilled distribution of his own weight. This means the rider has to be educated, has to really know the use of the weight, the use of the leg, the use of the hand. the triple responsibility: seat and its weight, the leg and the hand. These things co-act. And as this is going along, through the correct work of the seat and leg aids, the elevation of the forehand, it isn't forced, but by this correct work with the weight of the seat and the leg, the horse will offer this uphill way of going on its own. Initially, they're sensible. They'll go, I know an easier way, let me lean on the front. And we say, oh no, my darling, we're going to do it this way, because then you're going to enjoy an athletic life that will endure far beyond your front feet would if I let you go that other way. And he'll go, and you'll just give him a little kick, and he'll go, okay, I'll try it. And then they start to fall in love with the right way of going. So the horses will initially look for a way out. There's nothing wrong with that, but we need to nip those ideas in the bud. So this trained expert rider is, first of all, loose, absolutely tension-free, and in total control of a trained rider is in total control of their muscles. Muscles don't fire off unconsciously in a trained rider. We're just here. And the aids go through that loose, dense, conductive seat. Seat references the whole body. The limbs are just hanging by their own weight and are utterly free. And so when and if, and it should be only really at the beginning. With the greener horse, there are going to be little times we have to go whoopsie daisy, whoop, 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 whoop. But these adjustments or corrections are meant to be brief and effective. We don't stay that way. This is so important, because too much we see riders taking on a stiff posture in an attempt to counteract wrong balance in the horse. Can't be done. Horse is stronger than you. You are making yourself a false support, and the training's never going to happen. When the proper balance is ridden back to front with skilled, energetic, and free, clear seat, leg, hand aids that are stimulating the hindquarters. He's jumping forward. He's going, the front end's coming up. The hands adjust the rein contact so that it's perfectly matching the engagement achieved by the legs and the hindquarters. That is the measure. That is how we can measure that things are going the right way. I've turned the page to page 78, and I'm on the top full paragraph. When the horse's balance is well-founded, meaning doing it the way I just described and the way he's been describing all throughout, it has become a second nature. So what is a second nature? His first nature was to go, la, 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 look, blah, blah, blah. But now he's got a second nature. His second nature is thinking forward, advancing the load, where my line is where my eyes are going, the whole second nature. He's a trained athlete. Now, one of the things that comes from this, from a horse whose way of going is using himself well, that he's enjoying, is it will literally, the way his back starts to develop as it becomes this transmissive, conductive spot with the withers above the croup, it literally starts to make a comfortable seat for the rider. So I want you to ponder that. So I'm not ever holding stiffly against the error of a green horse or a badly trained horse. I am all the time going, oh, my darling, I want to sit like a princess on Quaaludes right here, all blah, blah, blah. Keep me in my spot. And guess what? They will, and they do. A very well-trained horse can even make a weak rider sit beautifully, or a less trained rider sit beautifully. There are horses that when you sit on them, you will sit beautifully. They literally put you there. And that is part of the task of a trained trainer, an educated rider trainer. And I know this idea is not in the zeitgeist of the horse world right now, but it is important. A horse that is so well balanced that you could do a Grand Prix or ride around and do whatever you want when he's all slick with sweat in the middle of summer bareback, because he's keeping his way of going, and he's keeping the rider in the comfortable seat. So this idea of a comfortable seat, we are making a correct way of going makes a comfortable seat. Now, that is the aim. That is what we're going for, right? This is a program all about best use of self, correct way of going, back to front riding, by the natural aids, carrying governs thrust, ride your horse forward, set it straight. This last page, we've really been talking about the way that the neck must come correct out of the withers as the final section of the spine. And we've got to make sure that it is not, I mean, most horses are kind of going like this. Their face is a little tilted left, and their neck is a little left of center, and they're bulging at the right here. So no, I've got to make my hands make his neck right at the withers, straight out of the withers, and then inside my gloves, keep my jaw loose. Now my horse has a nice straight out of his straight end section of his spine. Those last 7 cervical vertebrae are now straight out of his body, following along the line of travel precisely. And the individual vertebrae are in the correct connection. Their contact surfaces are in proper alignment, so they support the transmission of the aids. The cervical vertebrae are out there in space. The hindquarters and that section of back that's between the tail and the cantle, that's really thick and secure. Secure that with engagement. Then there's the part that's right under the saddle up to my withers. That's pretty secure, and I'm sitting on that part. But then there's the neck section, and that part, this is what he says, because it has greater freedom of movement, the bones are smaller and it's not as attached. That section of the spine often degenerates into bends and positions that are wrong for the purpose of riding. To prevent these degenerate positions is the main task of the hands, while the main task of the legs is to cause the hind legs to spring off lively and to keep them directed towards the center of gravity of the body mass, as we're joyfully advancing the load forward upon the line of travel. Now, what happens in the next paragraph, and I don't know how many of you will notice how skillfully I wrote around that, is he is going to list 2 examples of things going wrong and what to do. But I didn't want to, that's where this is where if I had been just going straight through, we would have read that section on page 77. Just as the hands must support the work of the legs by skillful guidance, the legs must always come to the aid of the hands. The next two sentences start with if. They are two examples of, the horse says, biting the bit like Penguin from Batman, try to bit his cigarette, or like a pirate holds a dagger in his mouth when he's climbing up to, cut the line on the jib or whatever it is. Anyway, that's what these two ifs in this paragraph are. And I would, in my opinion, you could almost just draw a line through them, because since you followed along and ride your horses back to front through skillful interaction of the triple responsibility of the seat, leg, hands, and so the horse is taking on a natural carriage that is an uphill relative elevation, his withers higher than his croup, and you have devotedly adjusted the length of your reins in order to keep the correct contact, so that you're not going to have these problems. Or if you do, you'll be, oh, what is that? And the horse will go, oh, sorry. It'll be so brief. But these two ifs in this paragraph risk, because of the way the text had to be written, since he didn't have a word processor or any visual media, he wanted to give us two examples. What I'm telling you is that go for the right thing that I've just expounded on and went into page 78. This relative elevation, uphill elevation with the correct contact, and the horse is making a comfortable seat for you. You're not going to run into these ifs. You will occasionally, let me go back a minute. I get a little bit like my head's going to explode if someone says to me while they're riding, well, he's been leaning on my hand for the last 10 minutes. And I'll be like, well, what's wrong with you? Why didn't you deal with it when he first bit down on the bit? Because that's not what they're supposed to do, right? We already know that if we've prepared our horses. So for me, it's not a legitimate thing to say, oh, he's really heavy in my hand. Like, why? Why? And I'm sorry if I sound really pejorative, but there is enough clear instruction and preparation here that they really shouldn't. And if they do, if the youngster goes, I'll go, oh no, my darling. And if he bites down on this side, I just don't touch it. I go, oh, you better get in front of my leg on this side, because anytime a horse is biting down on one side of the bit, it means he's not in front of your leg on the other. He's not on the other side of the bit. So don't get in a tug of war. And as he's describing these two ifs, which I think I'm not going to read them. I'm not interested in them. It doesn't, in my opinion, come through well enough in this paragraph how immediately and quickly the solutions must come. The major would say, my dear, don't get stuck in the mouth. And I think that's all we really need to know. Don't get stuck in the mouth. They can't use you as a false support. You're not a banister. Your body isn't stiff, so they can't lean on it. If they lean on something, they should hit the, ow, what was that? I don't want to go lean on that again. And they go, oh, there's the friendly again. So these corrections need to be much more fast than reading in a paragraph can make them. And there are these two paragraphs. If there is insufficient contact, the neck is an elevate, there's just a list of problems. What I'm saying is I guess what I'm really saying is that we solve these problems back to front. Interrupt what's going on. Go onto a circle. Go into it. Do something. Make sure he's in. If he's engaged, he's not leaning on your rein. How long have I been talking? And in no way am I disparaging what Steinbrecht has said here, because he needs to talk to everyone, but I feel that in this second to last paragraph on page 77, just as the hands must support the work of the blah, 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 where he has the two ifs and the list of things that go wrong in the mouth. You know, why does the horse have that wrong idea? So yes, and yes, he does say, we correct this by riding forward, and we correct it with the leg. But I think that the immediacy and the, like, I am not getting stuck in the mouth. You are going to carry me and get in front of my leg. And then I'm adjusting my rein length to suit that engagement. And the horses, if the horses are engaged, if my horse is better engaged right, if I've improved that in the last moment, and I should be able to then probably shorten, I was going to say adjust, but it's adjustment, probably shorten that same rein, centimeter to an inch, and he shouldn't feel the difference in his mouth, because the change is in his body. The change is in his, he's crouching, carrying more on the inside. So if you had a line to measure the stifle to the snaffle ring on the inside, it will be shorter than the line from his outside stifle to his outside stifle. I hope I'm not, I hope this is really understandable. And so quick, free, if the rider needs to make a correction, or when the rider needs to make a correction, but hopefully it's not that often. We correct and proceed. We don't live in correction. We ride by the aids, and corrections are not necessarily aids. But when this happens, please realize it is quick. It is not, we are not going to stay having a fight with a horse in its mouth or with the reins. I'm very fast with my, like, let's say I'm riding someone else's horse that isn't very good, and it leans on my hands. My hand, you lean on the left, I'm now holding on the right. You hold on, I'm now holding on the left. I don't give him anything to lean on. So if I would, and that's the way the major had me do it. It's not exactly repeated quiet holding. It's more like rapid dropping. I'm like, oh, you hold there, I'm not going to be there for you. I don't support him. If it's not a correct contact, I don't give him any. And I make him go. Oh, I hope that isn't too shorthand and doesn't sound like I'm just dismissing the problem. But I do want to dismiss the problem, because when we take the time, and sometimes it's a few weeks preparation, to make sure that all of the forward-going systems are set straight, and the horse has had a preview education in his mouth, and he knows that the curb and the snaffle mean, oh, you can be loose in your mouth. You can just keep your lower jaw loose. Yep. And just follow whichever side of the snaffle is predominant. Oh, stay loose. The ifs that he lists in this paragraph on page 77 are either going to be completely bypassed or be instances where you go, oh, good thing we didn't fall for that. And good boy. I think that's good for today. We've got another week to go to finish this wonderful gift, the DNA of writing that he spells out for us here between pages 71 and 78 of Gymnasium.